So, yeah, I just heard the end of that, people nattering about the Queen there. I guess it's gone all around the world. I have to admit, I'm not a royalist, and it's bypassed me, really, the whole Queen thing. But I know a lot of people are attached to the Queen and that whole, whatever that is. Put your hands up if you find it a little bit weird energy tonight. I'm kind of, because I've been, I've got this hernia which really stopped me getting around, and a lot of my health is going for walks, being mobile, being active, and I'm having to spend a lot of time lying down, and I've got a little bit, not a bad anything, but a little bit under the weather and feeling a bit iffy. But listening to you, I'm just wondering if, as I said, I'm not a royalist, and I'm quite reactionary to a lot of things. So the royal family aren't my favourite people. But everybody has their own opinion. I did put a thing. I wasn't expecting the reply that I got, but on my friend's Facebook page, she had it's now time to abolish the royalty petition. So I stuck that on my. And I don't get, I normally just advertising horror, so I put that on. Boy, it's like entering some kind of war zone. And just completely off the wall arguments. It was just weird. So I fully understand, but I'm wondering, because as I haven't watched anything, I just don't like them. I don't like the energy around it, and I don't like what it represents. But that may be just me. I really do hold the space open for everybody in that regard. But because I'm gonna mute everyone, because I think this may be quite important and to do with the energies. I was not expecting at all to speak about this. But as we are, and we might as well get a nice recording of it. So I've muted everyone, but people can talk. So as I said, I'm not a big fan of royalty. For me, it's part of the government. It's part of big pharmaceutical companies. It's part of secrecy. It's part of some people being more important than other people, for me. And you only have to look at what her children have been getting up to, and Lord Mountbatten and people like that. And the Queen, she bankrolled Andrew to get him out of trouble. With taxpayers' money. She gets paid with taxpayers' money, but it's come from the people. So I don't like it, but I know other people do, and there's arguments on both sides that, it brings a lot of tourism and things like that. But I really don't care. I get upset that, like nurses don't earn much money, or people who care and do some good don't make a lot of money, aren't thought about as important. There's a lot of importance around money. People are more prestigious, or thought of as more prestigious, or people envy them if they have a load of money. They have a nice house, or I'd really like a house like that, and all of these things and it gives people like that a kind of prestige and an aloofness. I find an aloofness there and a lack of empathy. You know, there's this huge outpouring. I'm sorry, I'm totally biased. It's coming out my mouth, so I'm just going to say it. You know, there's this huge outpouring of love for the Queen, and I'm kind of wondering where that comes from. Because I doubt the Queen and her family and that whole race really care too much about if one of us die or different people die. I don't think it's big on their agenda. Again, that I'm just putting out my view on it. I'm really for normal, independent people, people who give and help and want to create a better world. I'm with them. Do you know what I mean? That's where I stand. But I'm just kind of wondering, because it's just coming up today, and I think, well, it must be part of the group. And it's just because I caught that last 2 minutes of people talking, because I was trying to sort out my sound, if it was going to work or not. I wonder what it signifies energetically. And we've been working a lot with moving from one era to another, or at least within ourselves, from one level of ourselves to another. And I'm wondering on that level whether the whole structure of society needs to change. Well, in myself, I think it does. I think big pharmaceutical companies are a problem. I think big business is a problem. I think the way the government is lobbied and ends up just doing what big business wants the government to do is part of the problem. And I see the royalty as part of that. It's almost like religion. The royalty, I think, is part and parcel of religion, really. And I can't help but think a lot of this outpouring of love or feeling of loss may be people's need or reluctance to look after themselves. Like, need a carer, you need a doctor, you need a queen so that you know where you are, or a parent. Maybe, you know, the queen represents people's parents, or a fantasy. You know, I think every girl's dream. I'm going to be a princess, and I'm going to meet Prince Charming on his horse trotting along, and then I'm going to be the queen and he's going to be the king. And, you know, that's been fed through all the Walt Disney, you know, from a young age in all the cartoons and Walt Disney. All the little girls want to be a princess and a queen, and all the little boys want to be this brave knight that marries the princess and goes through all sorts of adventures and then becomes the king. And so it's kind of in people's psyche of wanting that. So maybe, I'm not sure, I truly was not expecting to speak about this. So I wasn't thinking of talking, but there it is. And you may consider that a bias, and there may be people here who are pro-royalty, and I'm not against that, but just You know, I am running the group, but I'm no more important in what I think and what I do than anybody else here. But for me, it's I'm just channeling really. The word that's coming to mind is shackles. Is shackles. We're shackled. And willingly shackled. It's an epoch, whatever that means, the end of an era, and I think all of that is just really coming up to the surface to be aired, viewed, felt and understood. And I think the passing of the Queen is something to do with that. And you can tell they're either scared or really wanting to protect it, because anybody campaigning, you know, you think Russia's bad. Someone was standing outside Parliament with just a blank placard, nothing written on it. And they arrested him because they thought, well, you could have written something about Prince Charles. And people were getting arrested because they didn't want Prince Charles. So the police are in on the act as well. The police are fighting for the royalty, for the government, and by whatever, for big business. See, I can't complain about the monarchy. I can't really complain about the government, because it comes down to us whether we are grown up enough to look after ourselves, whether we need these princesses and queens to be there getting huge sums of money. You know, it's, why do we need these people? So I keep almost getting to that point. This passing of the Queen may be representative, but it may be representative for a reason that people haven't thought about. Maybe, just maybe, this is going to be the end of people's dependency to have somebody above them, and for people to be responsible for their own lives. So there's a depth to these webinars we're doing. There's a very real result you can get if you practice this. And there's a bright light behind that. As I'm speaking, there's this bright light coming in. We really, these days, I don't think it's just me. There just seems to be an almost visceral connection to the other side and what's to come. You know, just talking about that as I come to you, I can just feel this bright light coming in, and it is the end of an era. And what we talked about with the monarchy, I think it's the end of all of that. I think it's the end of these big companies, or us being dependent on these father figures or mother figures that we put out. So there's a bright light, and it's like evolution. It also even feels like it's to do with other planets. It's as if other intelligent systems are watching us, and this spiritual energy, it is from the higher energies, but it's connected through the whole universe and all planets, and that way it's connected to other civilizations on other planets. And if you consider it to be holographic breathing, I can't see how it cannot be that. Because in a holographic universe, Earth doesn't stand alone. It's part of all of the planets. And why would a certain spiritual energy just come to Earth? I mean, how small is that when you consider the immensitude, there's another new name, the immensitude of the whole universe. Why would the spiritual energy just come to Earth? We think of ourselves, not just ourselves as a person, but ourselves as a planet, as quite isolated. And if you talk about ETs or something like that, well, you're a bit wacky. But how can there not be other intelligences? Now, I'm not saying they're coming in here in spaceships. I mean, who knows? There's a lot of evidence to say there is, but who knows? But why would a spiritual energy be confined to Earth? Why would we think, oh, that's just for us? And then you put it in that size, because as I feel it coming to me, it is definitely connecting with other planets and their evolution. And maybe the way forward, and maybe you don't have to travel to other solar systems physically. But you know, because I cannot believe we are the most advanced race around. When you look at what we do, it would be really unbelievable to think we are the most advanced, evolved race that there is. I mean, it's just ridiculous to think that. So there's obviously other races that are connected to this intelligence that are a lot more evolved. I've always had this funny feeling with holographic breathing of an ET presence. And just the movement of the face and mouth, because the lips are closed, the tongue is on the roof of the mouth, but there's this movement. And if you think of an advanced race, maybe they wouldn't need speech, because it's always like the lips stay closed, and you can't have speech when the lips are closed. Maybe other races won't have such a big mouth or a mouth, because they can communicate telepathically. Maybe they don't need to eat in the same way. Maybe they can just breathe or whatever. But it just seems to connect to intelligent civilization that's not just to do with our planet. And the spiritual energies that come through also, how could they just be? Or maybe there are just spiritual energies for this planet. But I kind of doubt it, really. Maybe people who lived here and evolved and have gone to the other side, maybe they're keeping a watchful eye and just more in this planet, but like just an energy, just a divine intelligence. I think maybe it's a bit more expansive, but whatever. The energy that's coming through to do with the tongue and higher energies to do with the tongue seems to be all encompassing and larger than our reality, larger than our concept of evolution, larger than this earth. And we could really do with some good advice from somebody else who's maybe got a different way of doing it. So if you're open to that, it seems to be there and available. I wasn't expecting that, but it seems to be there and available. If you're not open to that, you just do it in your own way. It really seems to be, we are adults tonight. You don't have to believe what I'm saying. I'm saying it. You don't have to take it on as real. You don't have to make me daddy. You don't have to make me the important person, the one who knows it. But believe me, I don't. I really don't. I just make it up as I go along. I don't make it up. I just start speaking and it just comes. So, you can listen to what I'm saying and listen to it with your own intelligence. In the same way people may put the monarchy on a pedestal, you don't have to do that with me. I prefer you didn't do that with me. I prefer you were free, have your own brain, can think for yourself, have your own judgments. But within that, what I'm speaking about, there just seemed to be this energy that's available, but also you can bring your own energies from wherever they are coming. Well, what I kind of saw in the break was, when that light was coming in towards the end of that kind of spiritual quality, and that it went off through different galaxies and solar systems and different races, that there is kind of a spiritual high command, like levels of different spirituality and evolution. And it seems like these things, like royalty, governments, moneyed things, people imprint that over the spirit rather than being in themselves and connecting to the earth and this spiritual high command. Maybe a lack of experiencing that. People place that as the royalty, as the prime minister. That was just the feeling. These structures, people are putting them on top of something else, and we're connecting to that something else. Today we're connecting to the earth, the spiritual high command. And it's not like it's a forceful command, it's just beings, things, spirits have different levels. So they're just sitting at different levels in that whole hierarchy. So there's no envy or fighting for the top, it's just what is. So we're working with the spiritual high command today and the earth.